always been wrong about me. I love, I get scared, but that is being human. And that's my greatest strength.
Would you look at that? After 12 years, Superman is finally flying back to the big screen. And to celebrate the fact that we're getting a new Superman movie, I wanted to talk about the stories that helped inspire this new take on the character. So, during development, director James Gunn made a post of comic book images that influenced this film, apart from the original Donner films, which are also a great inspiration. Since this is a brand new story set to have an original take on the character while also being deeply rooted in Superman's comic book legacy. And from that post, along with what we've seen in the trailers, there were four major comics that stand out as clear inspirations: All Star Superman, Superman for All Seasons, Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow, and Kingdom Come. These four books, I managed to connect to how they could be used to showcase the different aspects of Superman, like his friends, powers, personality, and villains. So let's dive into what these stories are about and how they might have shaped the Superman movie we're getting. Kingdom Come. What more can I say about this iconic story that hasn't already been said? Often cited as one of the greatest Superman stories, if not one of the greatest comic book stories ever written, Kingdom Come by Mark Waid and Alex Ross tells the tale of a retired Superman returning to a world dominated by a new generation of reckless metahumans who have forgotten what it truly means to be a hero. What sparks Superman's return is their behavior, careless and dangerous, as well as a looming catastrophe known as Armageddon. The story is narrated from the perspective of a pastor named Norman McKay, who travels with the Spectre through different key moments, witnessing visions of what's to come. Throughout the story, we see Superman, along with some returning Justice League members, making a massive impact on the public. Superman returns with a radical idea to reform the new heroes, either by convincing them to join his cause or imprisoning them. His goal is to show them what it means to be a true hero. Without getting too much into details, a major event involving a character Magog causes Superman to step away. Magog does something that goes against Superman's beliefs, which leads the public to turn on Superman, choosing heroes with more extreme methods. Heroes who are willing to kill if it means protecting others. This event has an interesting twist as Magog blames Superman for letting it all happen. He feels guilty for the direction heroism has taken. There's so much more in this book that I highly recommend checking out, especially because of all the extra detail that went into building this alternate universe story, from the inspiration behind original characters to the future versions of iconic ones. And yeah, there's a lot of characters in this book that might be overwhelming if you're new to comics, but don't worry, you really only need to know the main ones like Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman, and a few villains like Lex Luthor. As for how this story connects to the Superman movie, I think it's pretty obvious. For starters, the emblem on his chest. The new Superman movie directly takes this symbol and incorporates it into his suit. That alone signals what Superman's arc might look like in this film, alongside characters in the movie like Green Lantern, Hawkgirl, and Mr. Terrific, being a part of a team under Lord Maxwell's control. And with James Gunn saying superheroes have existed for a while in this universe, it's clear that Superman will arrive on the scene trying to redefine what it means to be a hero. Someone who saves lives no matter the cost, hopefully inspiring others to see heroism not as a job, but as a calling. And again, maybe James Gunn just liked the logo and wanted something unique for his Superman. I guess we'll have to wait and see. Ah, All Star Superman, the must read comic book for every new Superman reader, or really, for anyone who really wants to understand and appreciate the character. It's another book widely considered one of the greats. Of course, it makes sense that this story would serve as a big inspiration for any Superman adaptation, since it's a culmination of many classic Superman adventures that introduce both the character and his world. I mean, come on, just look at this. The heavy key to the Fortress of Solitude, Bizarro, Solaris, Crypto, and that famous panel we've all seen by now. It's all here. It's just a fantastic. Say that again. It's just a fantastic overall story about Superman with great characterization that can turn anyone into a fan of the character. Written by Grant Morrison and drawn by Frank Whiteley, All Star Superman follows the Man of Steel on a series of adventures after a rescue mission exposes him to extreme solar radiation, giving him new powers. But alongside these new powers comes a devastating diagnosis. His cells are overloaded and he only has a short time to live. That's the setup for the story, where Superman must face 12 legendary super challenges, foretold to him by the time traveler Samson before his death. The book explores powerful moments like Clark revealing his identity to Lois and giving her superpowers for a day on her birthday. as well as realizing he can't save everyone, no matter how powerful he is. At its heart, it's about Superman's unwavering desire to do good and save the world. There are a ton of fun moments and incredible ones too, with Jimmy Olsen turning into a monster to help Superman due to him being exposed to black kryptonite, the appearance of Superman's descendants from the future, and Lex Luthor being sentenced to death for his crimes. There's a lot here, and I highly recommend you read it for yourself. As for what the story might inspire in the upcoming movie, that's hard to say exactly. There's definitely a lot of things that could carry over. Moments where Superman saves people and brings joy to sick children, shows his deep kindness and care for everyone around him. The relationship between Lex and Superman slash Clark also stands out as a major theme. From what Nicholas Hoult has said about his version of Lex, he plays an angry man envious of Superman, believing he doesn't deserve the powers he has, and feeling that he deserves the attention Superman receives for his intelligence and contributions to the world. That all reminded me of a particular scene in the comic where Clark interviews Lex in prison before his execution. We really see Lex's hatred for the Man of Steel, every line dripping with spite and resentment, especially the part where Lex flexes his muscles to show that they're earned and real, unlike Superman's, which he believes were just given to him. The brains versus brawn dynamic seems like a clear influence on this movie's take. Lex just knows Superman won't hurt him, and he uses every bit of his intellect to try and break him. Other parts of the comic that could inspire the movie could be the cast at Daily Planet, like Jimmy, Cat Grant, Lombard, Perry, and of course Lois. It would be especially cool if Jimmy had the Superman signal watch, though I don't think he knows Clark is Superman just yet. But yeah, anyway, if you want to understand Superman and truly understand what makes him special, just read this book. Alright, the next one we got is Superman Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow by Alan Moore and Kurt Swan. This story was meant to serve as the ending to the Silver Age Superman comics, the final tale of Superman and the world built around him before everything was rebooted following Crisis on Infinite Earths. And just by looking at the cover, you can tell this isn't a happy story. This is another one where Superman presumably dies. It's told from the perspective of Lois Lane, who's being interviewed by a journalist about what happened to Superman, because he's been gone for 10 years. The story unfolds through a retelling of the tragic events that led to his disappearance. It features familiar faces from the Daily Planet and an overwhelming roster of villains, including Lex Luthor and Brainiac, who team up in a final attempt to destroy Superman once and for all by targeting those closest to him. It's a devastating read, and no pun intended, but it's super sad. Beloved characters die almost every other page. Superman cries, he struggles, and he realizes painfully that he can't save everyone. I think we're seeing a theme here. So how could this book serve as inspiration for the new movie? Well, one clear connection is the overabundance of villains. In this comic, multiple antagonists converge to push Superman to his limits, emotionally and physically. And from what we've seen in the trailers, that seems to be happening here too. Characters like the Engineer, Ultraman, the Hammer of Boravia, and of course Lex Luthor all stand in opposition to Superman. They challenge his ideals and seem determined to take him down. Heck, even the Justice Gang might play a role in trying to tear down Superman, emotionally, ideologically, or even literally. That overwhelming pressure is something Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow portrays incredibly well, and it could be the emotional template James Gunn is drawing from, especially considering the specific panel Gunn chose to showcase, the one that captures Superman's emotional vulnerability. That panel alone hints at the tone we might see, a Superman who struggles, who feels, and who fights not just with his strength, but with heart. Either way, I highly recommend reading it. It's a pretty short story, but also very powerful, and gives a great homage to the end of the Silver Age Superman, giving a pretty fitting and heartbreaking farewell to a beloved version of Superman. And finally, we have arrived to my personal favorite of these four books, Superman for All Seasons by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale. It's a story about Superman told through the perspective of the peoples closest to him, Pa Kent, Lois Lane, Lex Luthor, and Lana Lang. You could call it a coming-of-age story, one that explores the humanity of Clark Kent as he leaves Smallville to do big things in Metropolis, both as a reporter and as Superman, doing everything he can to save lives. What makes me love this book, aside from the absolutely beautiful art, especially the way the flight leaves a trail behind him, is how well it introduces and develops each essential character. There's Pa Kent, feeling uncertain and even a little fearful as Clark grows stronger, Lois Lane, full of determination and competitiveness, Lex Luthor, full of envy, whose bitterness leads him to take a drastic action, and Lana Lang, feeling lost after learning the truth about Clark, responding by running away from Smallville when her dreams of being with him fall apart. And of course, there's Clark himself. His heroism is always present, but the emotional depth comes through when Lex tries to teach him a lesson, pushing Clark to feel powerless, unsure of how to be Superman, and struggling to figure out where he truly belongs. The idea of home and identity is central here. Smallville really shines in the story, as most of it takes place there. The book focuses on characters from Clark's early life and shows him wrestling with what to do with his powers. It only contrasts beautifully with the move to Metropolis, where he's celebrated by many, which only deepens his conflict with Lex as he challenges and reminds him of an earlier struggle. Lex getting pushed too far and responding in a manner that reveals his true intentions and how far he is willing to go, making his presence big as a threat and nemesis to Superman, all to not be outshined. And honestly, I think all of this can clearly be present in the new Superman movie. Perhaps Clark faces Lex and struggles to figure out what he's supposed to be, coming back to Pa and Ma Kent to feel safe, to reflect, and to search for purpose, which is where Pa Kent will be able to shine with Clark as he tries to guide him on the right path, even though he himself is unsure of what to do. I imagine this will serve as major inspiration for how the film portrays Clark's relationship with his parents when he's faced with adversity. It could also be that Lois in the movie might take on the combined roles of Lois and Lana from this book, someone who challenges and understands Clark while also grounding him emotionally. It's all very clear, crystal clear in fact, and since the new film won't be showing Superman's origin, these parts of the book serve as inspiration for what will be happening in this movie. Like I said, I highly recommend reading Superman for all seasons. It's not very long, but it's a fantastic coming of age story. It beautifully explores Smallville, the beginnings of Clark's life in Metropolis, and tells it all through the lens of 4 seasons, each reflecting a stage of Clark's emotional journey. It's a heartfelt, fun, and beautifully drawn story that really shows why Superman is so beloved. And those are pretty much the main stories that inspired the new Superman story. Of course, there are other influences out there, like some Golden Age comics, the Donner films, the Justice League animated series, and many more other Superman tales that helped shape what we're about to see. These were just the ones I felt essential, and I encourage you to read if you haven't already. These are popular stories that really define Superman and his legacy. Anyway, with all that being said, hopefully this new Superman movie turns out great because, man, do I want the DCU to finally work out. But yeah, that's all I've got for you today. See you next time, whenever that is.